Hi, I'm Jess. In Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of my favorite series of all time, and Suki is definitely my favorite character. She is severely underrated. I mean, just look at her. Look how freaking amazing she is. I love her so goddamn much, and if I didn't also love Sokka and think they're the cutest relationship in the entire show, I would be extremely jealous. Anyways, so as I was rewatching the show since it was re-added on Netflix, and the show fandom has been reignited for better or worse.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
I finally came to the decision that I was going to actually make one of my dream cosplays, which is a Kyoshi warrior, because I've always wanted to make their outfits. They're so cool, and Avatar Kyoshi is undeniably the best avatar in the entire series. But the problem is I have zero skills in sewing. The last time I even touched a machine was a year ago, and I was making my previous Suki cosplay, which was so bad that it was falling apart at the seams as I was wearing it at the convention, and didn't even last 24 hours. So this is my chance to redeem myself, to actually make a good cosplay for once that I've sewn myself. It's gonna be a nightmare, but I am ready. And by good, I mean semi-presentable. We're not looking for red carpet status here. The bar is on the floor. Anyways, let's just get into it. So I'm going to start up the skirt. So after your assistant sits on the materials and gets cat hair all over it, you can start putting out your pattern, which I got mine from Joann's. It's like a simplicity basic skirt pattern. I couldn't find the exact number, but it's a basic, A-line skirt. Also, in order to preserve my patterns for later, I glued it on some scrap like grocery bags, and then I just cut it out and pinned it on my fabric that was folded in half, which is actually where I messed up, because I was supposed to line the flat end of the pattern on a fold in the fabric, so then when I unfolded it, it would be two big pieces, but instead I aligned it so when I cut it out there was four small pieces. It was a pretty easy fix though, because all I had to do was sew down the edges of one of the four pieces, so I ended up having two instead of four, so I just had two extra seams, but it's fine. It turned out fine. I just have two big pieces now, which I can now connect into a skirt. So once you have your two pieces, you can put them together inside out and then pin the sides together and then sew along the edges like I am trying to gesture here. And obviously do not sew the top or the bottom part, or else you will be not able to wear the skirt. I'm just pinning them together so the fabric stays together. And also, I don't know anything about sewing. I'm just using a straight stitch, and then I went over it twice, so it's like a double straight stitch. I don't know what type of stitch to use for each situation, like a straight or a zigzag stitch. Situation. I hate myself. But whatever I use seemed to actually hold it together pretty well, so I don't care. That's all I care about. Just functionality. So once I had the main part of the skirt done, I went to work on the waistband, which was about 6 inches wide, and then I folded it in half or pinned it, and then I sewed along the side, and then I turned the entire thing inside out. I used that as a waistband, and obviously at this point you could also put in a elastic band if the waist was a little bit too big for you, but I actually made the waist like the perfect size, so I ended up hand sewing a zipper instead, which I did not show, but yeah, I ended up hand sewing it because I could not for the life of me figure out how to do it with my sewing machine and get that little foot in the little zipper part. So yeah, and then once you're done with the waistband, obviously the last step is to hem your skirt if it's too long, but I have long giraffe legs, so everything is too short on me, so I did not have to hem it at all. It was like the perfect length. So overall, the skirt was really easy to make, and after figuring out how to use a pattern for the first time, once I actually started sewing, it did not take that long, and I'm definitely going to be trying to make more skirts like this in the future because it was super easy, unlike the next step, which is the top part, which is a hellish nightmare that gave me so much anxiety. I actually found the exact pattern and I put on screen right here if you want to use it, but it's basically a wrap top kind of thing, and honestly maybe I should have chose a different pattern. I don't know if this was the right one. Anyways, I wanted to go with a different color green, so I chose this like light, almost mossy green color that was kind of a thinner texture and also had like little ridges in it, and I thought it was really nice. Anyways, so I pinned the fabric to the pattern after trying to figure it out for like an hour. One thing I realized after I was done making the top is that I should have made it longer, because in their costumes it's almost like an overskirt of the underskirt underneath. It's like a robe more than just a shirt, but it was too late to fix it and I couldn't buy more pattern. So actually, speaking of buying more pattern, I went to Walmart and I found this green pattern that I put on the inside of my pieces once I cut them all out, because I realized the fabric was a little bit too thin and I felt like adding an under layer would have a little more structure and keep it from ripping and, like, you know, the tear seaming, which maybe that did help, but also it made it super hot and a little bit too bulky. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I shouldn't have done that, because I do live in Florida and it made it even hotter to wear outside and just made the costume overall look kind of big. I don't know. So without the sleeves, the pattern almost acts as a vest with the back piece and then these two side pieces which connect at the top and then kind of fold over. Also, what do you mean a vest? Every single shirt without sleeves is a vest. What am I even trying to say? Also, what is past me trying to say in this clip? Because I cannot decipher what she's trying to say, and I am her. So I'm sorry that this clip makes absolutely no sense. So anyways, I sewed the vest, as I called it, together, basically the back piece and the two side pieces, after sewing the front and the inner fabric together, and I also folded in the edges to make a nice little seam, and then also added a little border of the inner fabric on the outside. Alright, back to the hard part. So I think I sewed, undid, and then re-sewed the sleeves like 20 times, especially the shoulders. I could not get it where it wasn't super bulky and didn't look like it had a super 80s style shoulder pad underneath my shirt, because it was just, I don't know, maybe I had the wrong size or something, but sleeves and shoulder pads and like the shoulder area, definitely not my expertise. We live and we learn, as they say. I actually ended up adding some of the inner fabric on the outside because it was really cool. It reminded me of like the Earth Kingdom symbol, and I really wanted to show, and as I was sewing it, I realized you could only see it from the inside, so I put a little bit on the edges, as you see here. So here's the final product. It kind of looks like a really cute cardigan, and I also added these little tie things and I just cut a hole in the side, which is probably not the best idea, so I could tie it in the back. And I also cropped it because it was a little bit too long, and when I was wearing the skirt it looked kind of bulky and weird. So yeah. Also, in retrospect, I'm realizing that a lot of the problems arose in making the shirt part way too big. It's definitely the wrong size. So when I was wearing the armor, it was super bulky, and that's probably the reason why, not that I added an underlayer. And also, I forgot to add their little detailing on the sleeves, and I just totally missed that part. So if you're gonna do that, also add that part, which I totally forgot about. The final step is to make the outer armor and other accessories. So I primarily used like this craft foam. You can use that really fancy cosplay, I believe it's like EVA foam or something, but that stuff is expensive, and this stuff is like 99 cents a sheet or something, and I just got it from Michael's. So I used 2 sheets for the front and 2 sheets for the back for the armor panels, and I tried using a heat gun to mold it to my torso, which is probably not the best idea because I probably could have burned myself, so don't do that, and it didn't make that much of a difference anyway. So I glued the 2 sheets together to make the base of the armor pattern, and again try to mold it. Didn't really do that much though. I don't know if this type of foam really molds that well because I was afraid I was just gonna burn a hole in it. I ended up trimming them later, but I tried to make them fit the width of my torso and then have the front one have like a little heart shape at the top. And then once I was done with the base pieces, I added some decoration by cutting out a bunch of panels of other pieces of foam. And then for each of those pieces, I added 2 thin strips to each of the top and bottom, and then glued those on top of the strips before gluing them all the way onto my main piece. And it doesn't matter what color these pieces are anyways, because you're going to be spray painting them black. Editing Jess here once again. So I actually painted my armor black, and I realized that now looking at clips from the show again, it's actually brown with black trimming. So you can either do it black or brown like they have it in the show. I just probably should have done it brown. So I kind of just used whatever scrap pieces I had. And then once you glue everything to the main piece, I used hot glue because that's what I had. You can take a pair of scissors and just trim them to fit the piece Exactly. I ended up actually trimming this even more after I spray painted it so the edges are not black because I didn't have time to repaint it, but preferably get all the crevices and the edges. I think I did like 2 coats to get it pretty opaque. So for the shoulder pieces, I used more foam to make these 2 long pieces for the straps, and then I cut out a bunch of half spheres to act as a shoulder divide. I don't know what it's called, but they do have that in their uniforms. And then I glued the front and the back of the straps to the main armor pieces, and then I started working on the mini armor side pieces that would go on my hips. And I just cut out 2 rectangles for that and repeated the exact same process, and then spray painted it like I did for the main pieces. And to connect the 2 main armor pieces together along with the little side pieces, I attached the side pieces to a strap which would connect the front and the back armor pieces. And so I had a strap on my waist, and then I had another strap higher up on my chest that would connect them as well, so it was pretty secure. I use Velcro, as you can see, and it's not perfect, but this is my first time ever making armor, and it was definitely a learning experience to say the least. The last and final part of this costume is the little headpiece that they wear, and I lost a lot of footage for this, but basically I made the front part with some foam and then added an edge with a thin strip with some hot glue. I also cut out a little pocket for, I used chopsticks, I don't know what they use in their costume, that I would put inside like the little sticks, and then I painted everything gold. I have this gold acrylic paint that I used multiple coats for because it wasn't very opaque, but I eventually got a nice even color. And then I added some gold ribbon on the edges to add a little bit of, you know, pizzazz. And then I also have these tassels I bought of Joann's. I attached those to the ribbons and glued it to the back, and also some scrap fabric that I glued to the back so I could tie it around my head. Alright, time to activate Beauty Guru mode. So I'm already white enough as it is, but in order to get an even more ghostly complexion, I'm using this Meron water activated face paint in the color Clown White. So I tried a new technique this time. Usually I would just like slather it on with a brush, but now I'm trying to blend it out with my beauty blender, and let me tell you, that worked so much better. I don't know why I never used this method before. It definitely makes it look a little less cakey. It still looks pretty cakey, but a little less cakey, you know? In order to keep that face paint actually on your face, use some translucent powder and put it all up in there. I definitely used way too much, hence, you know, getting even more cakey. Definitely would not suggest using as much as I did, but you know. And then I went in with some red eyeshadow and a small brush and basically kind of outlined where I wanted my eyeshadow to be, and I try to look at a reference to try to get it close as possible. I also didn't cover my eyebrows with a glue stick beforehand. You can do that, but I am not very good at it, and I only had one shot at this makeup and I didn't want to have to redo the entire thing, so I just opted to like color my eyebrows later. For the main eye color, I'm using a small brush to apply this Meron cream stick face paint, and this is my first time using it and it's pretty nice. I really like it. I definitely added some eyeshadow on it on top later to get it a little less shiny and kind of set the face paint in there more. Trying to paint on a white face is so stressful because it's like if you mess up, it's so easy to tell, and like it's so hard to fix mistakes once you paint your face white. So I was, you know, a little anxious to mess things up. I also added a little bit underneath my eyes along with some red mascara from ColourPop. And then to add those defined brows, I'm using a straight up eyeliner. And this was really difficult because it was hard to like color in the hairs exactly. And I didn't want to use black eyeshadow because I felt like I would just get it all over my face and not be able to redo it. It was kind of stressful and I did not get it exactly correct, but I did try my best. I tried not to make it too thick, but it ended up being a little thick, but you know, it's fine. I also ended up adding a little wing to my eye because I felt like I needed that, and I used this NYX eye pencil to kind of fix the edges in the color white. And then I added some nice little lashes and some red lipstick from NYX, I believe, and some mascara, and you're done. Look at that. I mean, it's not perfect, but I think it was a pretty good attempt for my first time being a kyoshi warrior. You know, obviously there's practice involved. The girls probably had to train. I was gonna use my normal hair, and then I realized I had this short brown wig that I got for like $10 on Amazon, and I ended up using that instead. And I tried to pin the bangs back as much as I could, and then I started putting on my costume. It was really hard not to mess up my wig when I was trying to tie the headpiece on, but it was fine. You can't see the back anyways. And I also cut this strip of green fabric that was a scrap piece, and I tied it around my waist because they all have that. And I kind of also cinched in my armor a little bit. I also bought my fans on Amazon a year ago for my past outfit, and I also wore some black gloves and some combat boots. I mean, it's not perfect. I look kind of dumb, but it's the thought that counts, and I think I did a pretty good job for my first time sewing really anything. Also, I had a Zoom meeting right after this, and I had to like run mid cosplay and try to frantically throw off my costume and like scrub off my makeup so I could be presentable for my Zoom meeting. Oh my god. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my first spooky Halloween video of the month. I know it's technically not Halloween-y. Avatar is not really that Halloween-y, but it is a costume, and I want to post more costuming videos. Hopefully every week this month, if I can actually finish editing with the crazy amount of schoolwork that I have right now. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you want to keep up to date with like my social media, my cosplay attempts, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. It'll be on the screen right here. And thank you so much for watching. I really love you guys. Have a spooky Halloween, and stay safe. Bye.